From Recorded Future News and PRX, this is Click Here. Can you tell me a little bit about the Minority Report, not the Tom Cruise one?
Interesting. Yeah, it's a kind of funny story. So,
from Recorded Future News, this is Click Here's Mic Drop, a longer listen to one of our most compelling conversations of the week. I'm Dina Temple-Raston. And today, we're taking a detour from the past to talk about the future. Not speculative fiction, but real-world predictive cyber offense with Jon Clay. He's the vice president of threat intelligence at the cybersecurity company Trend Micro. And he's part of a team that's using artificial intelligence not just to detect cyber threats, but to actually anticipate them, to stop bad actors before they make their move. Which should sound a little familiar.
Let's not kid ourselves. We are arresting individuals who have broken no law.
But they will. The pre-cogs see the future, and they're never wrong.
And while Jon won't claim to never be wrong, he thinks they can see a version of the future.
we see a threat, and we can now run it through an AI program and models, and we can predict where that threat potentially could go inside your network.
Stay with us. Click Here is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states. I'm Dina Temple-Raston, and this is Click Here's Mic Drop. And you don't have any people in tanks being kept alive?
No, we don't. Thank God.
Jon Clay has been at Trend Micro for 28 years. That's a long time in cybersecurity years. And the company, headquartered in Japan, has a huge presence in Taiwan.
We work extensively with the Taiwanese government, and they utilize our solutions and platform inside their networks.
There are 1,000 people in their Taipei office, which puts Jon in the eye of a growing digital storm. China's ongoing cyber attacks against the island nation. Someone told me Taiwan's networks are riddled with Chinese intrusion. Is that true?
That's the challenge we have. We have definitely seen China step up their attacks against Taiwan, both in quantity as well as in quality. And it's definitely causing challenges for not only the government side of Taiwan, but also the commercial side.
Public transportation, electricity grids, and hospitals are among the targets.
Is Taiwan launching similar attacks on China?
I cannot say that because, if it's a war.
Chinese cyber espionage isn't new, but it's evolving really fast. Are they getting better?
100%. We saw a 45% surge in APT attacks.
APTs, Advanced Persistent Threats, nation-state hackers like China.
They are constantly changing their TTPs, so their tools, tactics, and procedures regularly. I mean, it's pretty wild. A lot of the back.
That evolution doesn't just make attacks harder to detect, it makes them harder to even recognize. The Chinese are also notoriously patient, quietly lurking inside Taiwanese networks for years at a time.
The hard part is, how do you root that stuff out? Because a lot of these agents or backdoors or whatever you want to call them there are sitting there stealthily, not doing anything, just waiting to be called upon. And it's difficult to root those out and find those.
Which is where Trend Micro decided to think different, as Apple might say. What if they didn't just respond to cyber attacks? What if they got ahead of them? And their inspiration was that Tom Cruise Hollywood blockbuster.
I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks and Donald Dumanos. Take place today, April 22nd, at 0800 hours, 4 minutes.
No, I didn't do anything.
That's a scene from Minority Report, Steven Spielberg's 2002 adaptation of a Philip K. Dick short story. In the film, the Washington, D.C. Police Department launches pre-crime, a futuristic unit that uses psychics to stop crimes before they can happen.
And the idea was, if I can predict the murder and who was going to commit it, I will go and arrest them before they commit the murder or get them to not commit the murder.
It sounds fantastical, but around 2008, Jon and his colleagues began to wonder, what if there was a kernel of truth there, at least for cyber threats?
So we had a similar kind of concept with cybersecurity. We said, hey, if we can detect a threat, we have all this information. Can we predict where that threat goes inside the network?
At the time, the answer was not yet.
SQL databases were not going to be able to do what we were able to do. Machine learning was not going to be able to do what we needed to do.
The tools didn't exist. But now?
Fast forward to today. You have massive amounts of compute capability. You have the new AI and generative AI.
Generative AI and large language models, or LLMs, are engines of prediction. They operate in pre-cog fashion by anticipating what comes next.
The beauty of what a LLM allows you to do is it is massive amounts of data that can predict what could happen. It goes, here's the first word in the answer. Now, what is most likely the next word, and then the next word, and the next word?
So Jon's team asked, what if instead of using this prediction engine for text, they used it to predict attacks? What an LLM needs is data, lots and lots of it. Fortunately, that wasn't a problem for Jon and the team.
We have 500,000 customers, in 160 countries. So we see attacks all the time from everywhere. And we can take all that information and put it into a data lake.
The data lake, essentially a massive repository of cyber attack history.
And it becomes a massive artificial intelligence brain on cybersecurity. You can ask it, hey, what does this do? And it'll tell you what it does. Hey, what is Salt Typhoon doing these days? Boom, it'll give you that information. It's amazing to see.
Using that same data pool, Trend Micro built a kind of pre-crime for cyberspace. They call it attack path prediction.
So we are now able to we see a threat and we can now run it through an AI program and models and we can predict where that threat potentially could go inside your network.
Just like language models detect the structure of grammar, this tool maps the anatomy of an intrusion.
How did they get access? How did they laterally move? What were they, what did they exfiltrate? How did they wipe their tracks out? A cyber threat is always going to follow some type of a path or multiple paths. And so now, because you have that information, you have that historical information, you have the ability to predict what happened.
They can even assign a risk score to vulnerabilities, forecasting the likelihood of an attack. And that's a big deal, especially for a nation like Taiwan, which lives under a constant threat from Chinese hackers.
And that's where we're shifting to proactive security versus reactive security. You think about, probably for the last, 20 years, it's been mostly reactive. Moving to a proactive stance is now helping customers to be more in control of their future.
When we come back, what this tech means for Taiwan and why, in the digital age, seeing the future might be the best way to survive it. Stay with us. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Therapy should feel accessible, not like a luxury. With online therapy from BetterHelp, you get quality care at a price that makes sense. And it's convenient. You can join a session with a click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy life. Plus, you can switch therapists at any time. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. Your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/click here to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/click here.
There's a lot going on right now. Mounting economic inequality, threats to democracy, environmental disaster, the sour stench of chaos in the air. I'm Brooke Gladstone, host of WNYC's On the Media. Want to understand the reasons and the meanings of the narratives that led us here, and maybe how to head them off at the pass? That's On the Media's specialty. Take a listen wherever you get your podcasts.
In 2023, Trend Micro got a call. It came from a software supplier that worked with the Taiwanese government. They weren't under immediate threat, but they had a suspicion that something wasn't quite right, something invisible. So Jon Clay and his colleagues from the company's incident response team went to work. They scanned the company's systems, sifted through their data logs, and then confirmed their worst fears.
Through that discovery phase of our incident response process, we were able to identify that, yes, they were in fact breached.
Not just breached, but breached by someone entirely new.
This is a brand new group. We were the first to identify it.
They called the threat actor Earth Amit.
So Earth Amit is a group that is most likely tied to the ministry.
As in the Chinese Ministry of State Security. Jon couldn't reveal exactly who Earth Amit had targeted, but he did say the group had set its sights on the connective tissue of Taiwan's digital infrastructure.
What they did in 2023 was compromising what we call foundational vendors and service providers. These are organizations that a lot of private as well as public organizations use to access the internet.
But after Jon's team spotted Earth Amit, they just disappeared from their client's network, at least for a while.
Again, we get called in on another case.
This time, the call came from a different kind of client, a Taiwanese manufacturer of military drones. So Trend Micro started digging, and it didn't take long before the patterns felt really familiar.
When you analyze the malware from both, you see similarities in what they're doing.
Enough similarities to draw a line between the two.
We tend to be a little shy in attribution, but in this case, we had enough information to be able to tie the two back together.
Turns out Earth Amit hadn't just returned, they'd never really left. The drone company had been compromised through the first company.
As they were inside the initial victims in 2023, they saw that the drone manufacturer was one of their customers, so they were able to island hop across to this other organization in 2024.
Earth Amit moved laterally from vendor to client, right under everybody's nose.
They were able to gain access through the software that was used by that drone manufacturer.
It was a reminder. These actors aren't smashing windows. They're picking locks, slowly, quietly, sometimes over years.
These groups are thinking long term, right? It's not a snatch and grab. But then what they are getting very good at, Dina, is laterally moving across the network and staying resident for many, many days, even months, even years in some instances. So they're very good at hiding their tracks and staying resident within these organizations' networks.
But where patience is their weapon, pattern is their tell. And that's where predictive AI begins to shine. Because Earth Amit may be careful, but they're not original. They reuse tactics, infrastructure, even the code. And that makes them visible to an AI trained to recognize the footprints of a cyber attack before it fully lands.
The more you can put in attack campaign information, the more likely you can say is, okay, hey, I identified a phishing email that targeted this individual. And then, once you have that information, now you can predict, well, from there, you can go here, 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 and here, or you can go in this other direction.
So instead of just waiting for Earth Amit to make its next move, Jon is watching the board, looking for Earth Amit's tells with the help of their AI tools.
So we see a new backdoor, for example, and we're able to then predict what could happen with that backdoor. Where's that backdoor located? And we can start informing our customer, in this case, Taiwan government, what kind of mitigating controls do you need to put in place to ensure that it doesn't do that? That's the power of AI and the power of where technology has gotten us to, and it is taking us into the future. It's amazing to see.
So much of cybersecurity is reactive. It's cleanup, containment, damage control. But maybe that's beginning to change. Maybe the future of digital defense doesn't look like a bunker. Maybe it looks like a radar, watching the horizon, tracing the signals, and sometimes getting there first. From Recorded Future News, this has been Click Here's Mic Drop. It was written and produced by Megan Dietrich, Sean Powers, Erica Guida, Zach Hirsch, Lucas Riley, and me, Dina Temple-Rest. It was edited by Karen Duffin. We'll be back on Tuesday with an all-new episode of Click Here. Have a great weekend.
If you're looking for a daily guide to cybersecurity news and policy, sign up for the Cyber Daily from Recorded Future News. It serves up the day's most interesting and important cyber stories from our sister publication, The Record, and then aggregates all of the big cyber stories you might have missed from news outlets around the world. Just go to therecord.media and click on Cyber Daily to get all you need to know about the world of cybersecurity right in your inbox.